The second half here. We're talking with Adam Furgatch. That's www.adamfurgatch.com. Okay, and we're recording now. Adam, go ahead with what you're saying. What we're talking about here? It's really in supporting the Constitution. We are support. I mean, that is about states' rights, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. That the 11th Amendment clearly says that the states cannot be overruled by a few people on the Supreme Court, except in very limited circumstances. So let me tell you the story about how the 11th Amendment came about.
All right, and hold on just a minute. Let me go up here and see if. Okay, no, we're all right. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So I'll tell you now about how the 11th Amendment came about. The Constitutional Convention led up to the ratification of the Constitution in 1789. And then in 1791 came the Bill of Rights. So almost immediately there came a case that was going to be brought to the Supreme Court that was going to challenge the state's rights in the Supreme Court. The state of Georgia was sued by a private individual to get repaid from their Revolutionary War debts. The individual, or the estate of the individual, had lent the state of Georgia millions of dollars, which back then was a lot, and they wanted to get repaid. Well, that went through the courts, and for whatever reason, the Georgia Supreme Court said, no, we're not going to pay you. And I don't know all the facts of that case as to whether it was a true debt or not, but that's what the state Supreme Court ruled. We will not honor this debt. So that individual appealed it to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court took the case. Well, that put all the states in an uproar. There was almost a civil war right then and there, because their understanding of what they signed on to in the Constitution just a couple years earlier was that they would be protected by this type of suit. And in the Constitution, it's Article 3, Section 2, that talks about the federal judiciary's scope of authority. And this was in violation, and especially it's Article 3, Section 2, Paragraph 2. And this was part of what the state said, we cannot have this. We are sovereign states. We make our own laws, we make our decisions, and this was not in the agreement. So the Supreme Court thumbed their nose at the states. They ruled and said, nope, this guy's got to get repaid. Georgia, you got to pay him. And Georgia said, sorry, we're not going to acknowledge your decision. And Georgia state legislature passed a law immediately that said anybody who came to try and enforce that Supreme Court ruling would be sentenced to hang. So they said that was their statement, that our state law stands, that they were willing to hang anybody who tried to enforce this, in their view, unconstitutional grab of power. So all the states then got together. They instructed their state legislators in Washington to put forth an amendment. It was passed. It went to the states for ratification. It was passed within a year with virtually no opposition. That's how strongly it was felt, and that became the 11th Amendment, that the Supreme Court could not take these cases brought by private individuals against the state, that the states had the sovereign immunity to make their own laws and to enforce their own laws.
Well, where are we today? What do you're in Hawaii, so you're a little isolated from the mainland, but obviously you know what's going on over here. We've got NDAA passed. Lots of things are happening. Troops on the street. We're even told that Russia is sending over their special ops troops to take over parts of Denver for a training exercise with us in the U.S. Sounds like world government to me, but what do you feel that's going on? Now, we also have the issue with Obama. Obama is pretty much taking away all of the the Constitution. He's really eaten into the Constitution. A lot of people feel where it's the Constitution and America is really under attack. How do you feel about that? With the research that you've done, where you are and all that. I mean, just you've really done some remarkable stuff and starting organizing and putting these people in. Give me a little bit about your background, and then tell me where you think we're going and what else we can do about it. And how much money did you lose? How much do you stand to get back? I mean, if we had the money to help organize getting the truth out, doing radio shows like this. I published a magazine called Free American for 15 years. That was up on Barnes & Noble and Books A Million. And really did a lot to try to educate Americans about the banking systems. And what you lost with a major banking company. You lost your money with these people. I mean, this is just, to me, that's still just kind of incredible that that happened, and somebody got away with a lot of money, didn't they?
They certainly did, and that case is likely to go on for years. But it sparked me to look at, I live in Hawaii. I've lived here about 7 years. I grew up in Southern California, but I've lived all over. I've lived in Texas. I've lived in Florida, and so I've seen a little bit, and I know that where we do live in the United States, we have the greatest opportunities. And here in Hawaii, of course, it seems like paradise, and it is. And then something like this happens, where somebody steals my money. Well, that doesn't happen in paradise. In paradise, people are nice to one another. They tell the truth. They have fair dealings. And I said, well, all right. So I just got sparked. I got activated. And I started doing my research. I went and I read the bankruptcy code. And it's not your dime store novel.
No, what is your background, Adam? How'd you make your money in the first place? Have nice to have money to invest. I had money to invest one time. I still own stock in Harley Davidson, but they keep trying to kill me. So.
Well, many years ago, I worked in television production. I went to school for that, and I worked at a very local level. That was back in San Diego. And we made little videos for companies describing their products and services. And so I learned a lot about communication and all of that, which has now come to serve me, pretty well. I remember a lot of that. But then I went off. I worked in health education about, I would say, diet and some alternative health remedies. Again, doing research, learning, and seeing that sometimes things that were told in the mainstream media it's not the whole truth, and that there's more to learn if we just take a little bit of time to read. And now with the internet, we all have the opportunity to do that. That's why I'm so optimistic, is that information flow travels much faster, and we can have access to all kinds of wonderful information, and we can get educated and then use that knowledge to take action. So then I became involved in the investing world back in 2000 and started trading some stocks, and then eventually moved into commodities. And that was kind of only a means to an end for me. Paid the bills. But where I live in Hawaii, I have different projects I'm involved in, music or some other little film projects, and helping friends out with their things. So But when I discovered that this had happened to me, it sparked me, and when I read the bankruptcy code and took an action, it just one thing led to another. And one thing it did lead to is an attorney who helped me with my MF Global case, who is one of the leading experts on corporate personhood, and another attorney who's involved now in this case, the Citizens United case, who is an expert on money in politics and the constitutional solutions to that. So one thing led to another, and here I am. Wow, what can I say? I'm here. We're making our fight at the Supreme Court, and we're hoping to get the ear of Montana Governor Brian Schweitzer, and we're encouraging people to call Montana Governor's office. We're going to have a page going up on the website in a day or two that people can call or send a letter directly to Montana Governor Schweitzer asking him to support this 11th Amendment, to stand up for his state, because that's a very powerful argument for him as the state's representative to take as well. So we're just, getting active, and it's very inspiring. Very inspiring.
Are you just working in Montana right at the moment, or in the Supreme Court, and you're just are you expanding your operation? How many people are you reaching on the internet now? They're playing games with the internet. I'm broadcasting on 3 or 4 networks, but I get blocked here. I get blocked in the library there. They do things to try to interfere. And what is your success in reaching people on the internet? It's really I'm actually going to plan on doing a series called Living in the 21st Century. It's really a unique time. The 21st century, we've got so many tools to work with now, with the internet, with our words, with our broadcasting, that we didn't have last century. The 20th century was really dull compared to the 21st, and frankly, I really prefer the 21st to what I can remember from the first century. I've got other.
I have a feeling you have an ability to have a good, a pretty good time, whichever century you're in.
Well, there is an act. You have to learn. You really, we've been at war for 5,000 years. I think you just have to learn to enjoy the battle.
Well, they say that it's not a destination; it's the journey. Right? Life is not a destination; it's the journey. So yes, and that for me, that's why I'm inspired. I got inspired, so I just followed that. And if your listeners out there feel any kind of inspiration on anything, this is the time to follow our inspiration. Henry David Thoreau had a quote. Actually, I wrote a song about it, and the quote is, "Most folks lead a life of quiet desperation." And then in my song, the lyric goes, "They want something else, but hold it deep inside them." So now is not a time to kind of hold on to, well, I wish it was different, or, things are pressing in on me. Yeah, we all have pressures at all different levels, but if we could just find that little spark of inspiration, of something that makes us feel good and starts to speak a voice, and just follow that in as little a way as possible. For me, my experience is, that grew because the inspiration energy is very powerful. Whatever it is, if it's even inspiration that somebody wants to go make a dog park in their local community, that's their inspiration, because that makes a better place in their neighborhood. And then they're inspired. They talk to their friends. Yeah, and then they go to city council and they get it done. So it's just even those very little things. It doesn't have to be a big Supreme Court political thing. That happens to be what I was inspired. to take. So this to me is what my bigger message is actually. Aside from that, is just that my experience has led to an inspiration that can help make the world a better place.
I appreciate that, and I think you're making a good use of it. How many you've got? You've got the 11th Amendment website, and you've got your Adam Furgatch.
Right.
Site.
Well, my website, adamfurgatch.com, talks about the MS Global case, and then, but the focus right now, because we're in a time-sensitive thing, the Supreme Court is these legal briefs have to be in only one more week, and then they will take some other arguments. Hopefully, they will take some other arguments in response, and then by the end of May, they will have all the arguments, and they could decide at any time. The first thing is whether they're going to take the case or not, and it's possible that they will take the case and then immediately overturn Montana, saying Citizens United is the law of the land, get lost, Montana. We don't want them to do that, and that's why we're as vigorously as possible raising this 11th Amendment issue to say that they cannot do that. And now, interestingly enough, all 5 Supreme Court justices who voted for Citizens United 2 years ago, they supported unlimited corporate spending. All 5 justices also have voted repeatedly for 11th Amendment states' rights issues. They have said many times in the past, in the last 20 years, all these justices say that no, states like Montana can't be sued in the court in cases like this. So they're going to have a little question to answer, which holds forth. The Constitution for states' rights, the 11th Amendment, no, Montana can't be sued. They can make their own election laws. Or this other vote that they took, which of course is hugely unpopular. That more than 70% polls come out repeatedly that say, no, the public, they don't want it. They know corporate spending corrupts. So it'll be very interesting, and that's what our argument is designed to do, is to put this before those justices and make them choose. Make them choose the Constitution, 11th Amendment, and fortunately, it's a choice that we feel they can make. They can say, okay, we're going to say the 11th Amendment is the dominant factor here. We will not hear the case. They can say, we weren't wrong 2 years ago. We still believe that Citizens United was the proper decision, but we just can't rule on it now. We have to uphold the Constitution, and we cannot take the case. So then Montana wins, and their laws will stand. And then in other states who have similar laws, or states can pass similar laws that they have some confidence the Supreme Court will not touch.
This bank again.
Yes.
Where have you done any research? Where did this bank come from? How could it, and what were the other banks that you said this was the 8th largest? I suppose AIG or somebody like that. Well, that wasn't a bank, but
yeah.
What were the other banks that fell here? How much did people lose to these banks that our president, as he was walking out of the office, handed them $2 trillion for?
Well, the MF Global was $41 billion just on, the upfront accounting, but it still remains to be seen, kind of the behind-the-scenes accounting, because just like AIG was, quote, too big to fail, they had all these other contracts and derivative contracts with other banks and financial institutions that could go into the hundreds of billions or even trillions of dollars in AIG's case, the whole so-called shadow banking derivatives, and nobody knows what lies there. Now, in MF Global, that may not be a factor, but the people who lost money, now I was an investor, I lost money. I was a smallish, mid-sized investor, but there were many small investors, even like housewives had little accounts, $5,000, $10,000, trying to make a few bucks on the side. There were big hedge funds with hundreds of millions of dollars, and they got their accounts frozen out too. Now, we have received about 70% of our money back through the bankruptcy process, which is a miracle in itself. But
you've gotten what back? Repeat that, please.
The customers of MF Global have received about 70% of their money back through the bankruptcy process, which is kind of a miracle because usually those things take years. But it was so bad. I mean, people could see that we got ripped off, that they had to do something, so they kind of gave us some of our money back to keep us quiet for a while. It's kind of
so you did get back, what, 70%?
About 70%. There's still 30%. But many of the people who were affected, and this is really important, is that the commodities industry started with the farmers, that the farmers could go and and sell their corn crop ahead. They could plant in March and they could sell their crop in March, and they would promise somebody in October that I'm going to deliver you 1,000 bushels of corn. And if you give me this price right now, that's our contract. And then the farmers would take that money and they would go and buy the seed and buy their equipment and hire the labor to plant, and they could kind of lock in a profit. They wouldn't sell all their crop, but they would sell it to deliver in October. And then come October, they would harvest and they would deliver their 1,000 bushels of corn to the person who wanted it. Usually that would have been somebody who was making corn meal for corn, selling corn flour in the market. So that's called a futures contract, selling your crop in the future. That's how the industry grew up. So there were many small farmers who used MF Global as their exchange, and their accounts got frozen. The small farmers in America got frozen out. Some went bankrupt. They couldn't pay their bills, their debts. Some couldn't plant their crops for the coming year because they didn't have access to their money. It was a big deal, and it was so many people got affected. People don't really think about, and like you say, it's hardly even known. Well, the media likes to downplay things like that, especially when the crime was so blatant. But,
one of the things that I discuss on this show a lot, Adam, is the attacks on the self-sufficient family farm, which is the basis of every civilization, according to another friend of mine by the name of Richard Kelly Hoskins. He says that this is the basis, and the ninth plank on the Communist Manifesto is corporate farms. Can you say Archer Daniels, Midland, Monsanto, no food we don't own, I guess is their motto. And it's these corporate farms are putting the farmers out of business, just like you said. Now they want to put more regulations. They don't even want your children to be able to work on the farm. They're trying, and I've told people over my radio show for the last 20 years that any time a communist regime takes over a country, they go after three classes of people in order. They go after the farmers first because they don't want you being able to feed yourself. They go after the intelligentsia next, anyone that's smart enough to know what they're doing and might present a threat to them. And three, they go after the veterans and police officers that might still be loyal to the old regime. And in other words, anyone that realizes there wasn't an expiration date on that oath they took. I think we're in that third stage right now. And I appreciate the work that you're doing here.
Well, I appreciate the work that you're bringing forward. Everything you described is, I guess, a little above my pay grade, so to speak. But it sounds like you're very passionate about it, and that's the important thing. Education, and you've been dedicated for 20 years bringing information, and this is what it's about, bringing information. And it's the old thing now, the pen is mightier than the sword, and that is the information through the pen, the writing. Back then, and now it's the internet. The internet is mightier than the battles there.
My opinion is that God is alive and well on the internet today. Burning bushes are kind of passé in the 21st century, so why wouldn't God use the internet?
Can I steal that one?
Absolutely, sir. You're welcome to it. I have a couple others just to let you know. If you're omnipotent and omniscient, what are you? You know everything, you can do everything. That makes you God, right?
I think that's some people's definition.
Yeah, you're the only one of your kind in the universe. There's only one God, right? All our religions agree on that, don't they? Well, if you're
well, ultimately, I think they do, and this is, I guess, part of the communication, the breaking down that the root of a lot of religions and philosophies, we're all trying to say the same thing, that we are all interconnected and part of something much bigger than humans, and the internet is actually kind of a physical representation of that we're all getting connected. Instantaneously. You can talk to somebody in any part of the world. This is pretty amazing. So
yeah, we used to
we are all in this together. And
last century we had to use
and we better start cooperating here. It's much more fun to cooperate than it is to fight. So I'm all about more fun in life, and if it's more fun to cooperate than fight, let's find a way. And part of that, I think, is to realize that there is this bigger picture of we're all in it together, and we are here to have some stewardship of the earth and of ourselves in a greater picture of fun and harmony and love and all of that.
Well, the hippies out there talked a lot about love, and actually love is your level of vibrational energy, or a high level of vibrational energy. And if we concentrate on working together and being more positive instead of being so judgmental, the enemy's plan is divide and conquer, folks. Divide and conquer. And they don't want you working together. They don't want you talking. They don't want you listening to me. They don't want you listening to Adam Furgatch. Adam and Adam's site again is www.adamfurgatch.com, and also has 11th Amendment. Give us that again.
Going on in the
all right, hold on just a second here.
Media won't tell you.
Okay. All right, we're out of time here, folks. Adam Furgatch,
okay.
give him that 11th Amendment, and while I'm closing a few things down here.
The website is www.11thamendment, 11th amendment.org, O-R-G. And encourage people to go and check it out and learn a little bit, and if they're inspired to start getting their voice heard in whatever area that they feel inspired. This to me has brought an immense measure of satisfaction and a real, kind of purpose. And this is mine, but others will find their own. And this is just wonderful. We're living in an amazing time, Craig.
Yes, sir. We are. Thank you very much for being with me.